All right, big win by the Buccos tonight. Also, Steelers training camp 13 days away until the Steelers have to report to St. Vincent in Latrobe. I'll be there every single day, pretty much. Paul Zeise will be there a lot. Le'Veon Bell has this weekend. He has to get he'll be there too. Probably on a $12 million one-year deal because it doesn't look like he's going to get a long-term.
I wouldn't say that. A lot of these things usually...
He has until Monday to sign it.
Yeah, usually these things, though, if you look historically, Ray Fittipaldo wrote about this in the Post-Gazette earlier this week. A lot of these things usually go down to the last hour. And so if you look at the last 3 or 4 years, the players that were franchise tagged or whatever, and a lot of the
Except for some of them.
A lot of the deals that were done at like 3:30, on the deadline day. So my concern with that is, do you really want to give him a long-term deal?
I know. I'm not against the 1 year, $12 million, because then you might see where he is. Is he going to last an entire season? Is he? You know, I think I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty confident that he's not going to get back into the marijuana and failed drug test. It seems like he's maybe on the right track and understands that, because then he would be out for 4 games and potentially 10 and then a season. So, but I do question if he can last throughout an entire season the way he runs without being injured.
I mean, and they're going to run him what they run him last year?
50% of the time, or
they run him like 220 times or something last year. I mean,
they don't really have a backup.
Whenever he runs, whenever he has play, whenever he plays, you almost, what are you going to give him? 20 carries a game, right? 20. That's what they do. So,
and maybe more.
I mean, to me.
Probably 30 touches at least, some passes too.
If you look at the law of averages and everything else when it comes to running backs, I think he might have 1 or 2 good years, like really high productive years, and then the decline will be steep for a player like him.
So LaShawn McCoy makes $8 million a year. Do you pay him more than LaShawn McCoy?
Well, that's what they're going to want. Right?
Yeah, but do you pay him? Is he worth more than LaShawn McCoy right now?
They're going to pay him this year, right?
They're going to pay him this year,
right?
But
he is worth more than that. But how much?
That's the the bar right now.
To me, I think they're going to want to be the highest paid running back.
Yeah. So do you get a 5-year deal?
5 years, $45 million? Are you going to
something
do
like that?
I guess if you're going to do that, if it's only
big signing bonus,
if it's only like 15 or 20 million guaranteed, maybe I would do that.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Because you can get out of the rest of that pretty easily then.
Martavis Bryant wants to sit down with Ben Roethlisberger. You wrote about him. I don't know why he has a problem with what Ben said, and maybe because he said it publicly.
Here's
but
the thing.
he did let down the entire team last year.
Exactly. You would think a guy coming back from a suspension would just be quiet.
Yes.
Go play football.
Not tweet. Not get in fights with your teammates.
Exactly.
Not call out your quarterback.
At all. Just go and play football. You've lost the right for us to care what you have to say until, maybe another year or two. You look at Ben Roethlisberger, he went through all that stuff, he went through. And there was a period there where he was not very popular. And people in his town were talking about trading him or cutting him.
Oh, yeah.
But what happened? He kept his nose clean. He kept his head low, and he just played football. And he tried to remake his image. He's a family guy now and all that stuff. But around that time, he was smart enough to know, I just need to keep my mouth shut.
And that's what he did. Yeah. All right, so we're going to switch the subject back to the Pirates and raise it tonight. Everyone has Bucco fever tonight, that's for sure. Let's go out to Rich in Ambridge. How you doing, Rich?
Hi, good evening, guys.
Thanks for calling.
I wanted to call you about a week ago when Gregory Polanco laughed his way through 2 misplayed balls in center field against the Cubs.
Who did you want to call, me or Paul? Because I think we went on a couple rants with Gregory Polanco.
Well, and tonight he jogs to second base on a double. He should have been on third, and he would have scored on the next ground out.
Yeah.
And then he gets picked off. I think it's time he goes to the woodshed or something. I would have pulled him right there on the spot to show my displeasure for him. Is lackadaisical from A to Z. I mean,
can't agree with you more, Rich. Paul called him the most disappointing athlete in Pittsburgh sports history.
I don't know about history, but in recent sports history, Pittsburgh sports history, I'd have to think about it, but, he's recently, last 10, 15 years.
Because his expectations were so high.
Expectations were so high. I mean, I think the guy's going to be a good hitter. I do. he's just not a very good baseball player. I mean, he doesn't run the bases well. He's, you know, did you see the one? I don't know if you saw the one play where it was a line drive to him, and he tried so hard to turn it into a triple. I mean, he somehow was able to catch it, but it was like a snow cone. He caught it across his body or something. It was ridiculous. It was like, are you kidding me? It's
an adventure every time there's a fly ball to hit. That's all I got to say. I mean, I know he has a ton of talent, and maybe he's just got to catch up to it. But yeah, definitely an adventure when there's a fly ball hit to him. All right, let's go out to Matt in Oakland. How you doing, Matt? Matt?
Rich, how are you tonight? You and Paul both. I thank you for taking my call.
Good, thanks
Rich,
for calling.
I couldn't get through on Wednesday night. Gene Collier was sitting shotgun doing the broadcast.
Yeah.
And you made Andrew McCutchen has proven he's the best center fielder in baseball.
Right now, I mean, how can you argue that? I mean, maybe not the.
Let me give you a couple of numbers.
Okay.
The last
I know.
5 years.
I'm just saying the last 2 months.
Listen, his defensive metrics rank him the bottom 20% of center fielders in baseball over the past 5 years. He's 12 for his last 24 in stolen base attempts. He averages for his career 22 homers and 79 a year, and he hasn't thrown a guy out at home plate from center field since 2013.
Okay, I'm just going by the eye test and playing, but the whole package is what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking a little bit about, the whole package. I'm not talking about his defensive play, I mean his play in center field. Well, I'm saying he's the best center fielder right now, the last 2 months in the game, hitting the ball, but all-around package is what I'm saying. Yeah, I want him over anyone else in the game right now, the last 2 months.
You would take him over Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Right now, yeah, I would.
No, you would not. You would not.
Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating.
Okay. Number one.
I'm exaggerating because I want to be right.
Number two, the other part of it is defensively, the caller is correct. I mean, defensively,
I'm not going to argue his defensive numbers.
Among the top 10 center fielders. So,
but right now, I mean, what did Marte do any better when he was in a handful of games he played? I think McCutchen right now, he's a better left. Marte's
a better fielder. He has more range and he has a better arm. But other than that, he's not better. I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, if you want to say that Andrew McCutchen in the last 6 weeks or eight weeks,
that's what I'm saying,
has been one of the hottest and best hitters in baseball. Okay, good. If you want to tell me that you still think Andrew McCutchen's one of the better hitters in baseball, okay. But let's not lose our minds. I'm
not losing my mind. I'm just saying right now, overall, I would take Andrew McCutchen basically over any other center fielder in the National League. Overall, right now, just right now, the last 2 months. Not saying what he did last year. You might not. No one agrees with me, but that I'm just going to make my case. Let's go out to Mary Kay in Munhall. How you doing, Mary Kay?
Hey, hi, Richie, and hi, Paul. First of all, Paul, I want to tell you I agree totally with your opinions on everything. You speak for the rest of us.
Well, I appreciate that.
I agree with them, too, because if I don't, he's bigger than me.
Okay. But what I wanted to say, guys, I'm just hoping that the Pirates make good decisions at the trade deadline and don't toss the season away, because I do think they have a chance, but they have to make some decent decisions on the trade deadline. Being that said, I think that they should hang on to McCutchen and be very careful about who else they trade.
All right, thanks, Mary Kay. I'm torn. I don't know what they're going to do. Honestly, I thought for sure that they were going to trade McCutchen. His value is at his highest, but maybe they might wait until the winter baseball meetings in the offseason. You're going to lose more fans. Their attendance is already down, and maybe they're not looking at that. But do you hold on to him and then try to trade him next year at the trade deadline? I guess if you think you're going to be good next year. Obviously, Meadows hasn't done what they thought he was going to do.
You've got to decide if you're going to want to try and be good this year or next year. So
okay.
If you think you're going to be trying to be
I still don't think they can win the division. I think the Cubs.
But here's the thing: if you next year, if you think you're going to be good next year, so you go halfway through. Now you're going to trade McCutchen halfway through a season. You've told your fans you're going to try and get to the playoffs. I mean, I think if you're going to trade him, you got to trade him right now. His value will never be higher.
Yeah, maybe you sign him to a long-term deal, but I doubt that's in the cards right now. All right, we're going to take a break. Back to answer more phone calls coming up next. Stay right there.